honor to have Dario Peña here from the film. So, David Delvalle from Haley House and other programs. And like we do at RoxFilm, it's not, we love the directors, we love you and we love the filmmakers, but with a film like this, we really felt like it was important to have a conversation about the film itself. And so we're going to talk about it, and not about what we shot with and all those sorts of things, but really the meat of it, because as Dario and I were talking about the subject matter of this film and the activism that needs to happen around it, I think there's a lot to unpack and a lot to say. So I'm going to ask a couple questions and definitely give time for the audience to ask their own questions. But for Dario being in the film and coming back and doing this as a narrative film, can you just talk a little bit about your experience working on the film, and then sort of like the first time you saw the film?
Yeah, thanks for being here, everyone, and thanks for inviting me here. It's great to meet you as well. For me, participating in this film was very nostalgic for me. Why? Because many of the individuals that you see in the film I hadn't seen in many years. I had been involved with that program for about 18 years. I had 25 years I've been in prison, and all of these guys are guys that I built a really close relationship with in the program. And at most prisons across the country are very divisive on the inside. When you have people who are divided by race, ethnic background, gang affiliation, community, so many divisions inside the prison. And we don't really interact like that with one another. But in a program like this, these barriers just kind of fell away. And so we developed a camaraderie in that program. And not only a camaraderie, but a level of growth and development that's unprecedented, especially when so many of us were incarcerated since we were teenagers. We grew up in the prison system and didn't have autonomy, didn't have a level of maturity, accountability, things that we developed while again participating in the program. So, to see them on the set, to come together and actually work on a project like you used to do on the stage at Sing Sing in the auditorium, it was very nostalgic for me. I used to speak on it. This is again, it feels like we're on the stage at Sing Sing doing this, and everybody was like, yeah, that's true. So that's what this experience was like for me.
I mean, it is amazing that you came back after such a long time to do this, and what it really means, because there was such camaraderie in this film, and the importance of this theater program bringing you all together to do that. It shows that programs like that are so important. And David, I'm curious, you do a lot of the work and outreach work for returning citizens in Massachusetts, and I'm curious as to your reactions to the film.
It was like traveling back in time. Like, I got to relive a lot of the moments when I was inside, and I was building those same bonds through my program, the Tufts University Prison Initiative at MCI Concord, and I had actually had to perform a monologue from Midsummer's Night Dream. I was overall, and I strictly remember feeling out of place, but the guys just made me feel so comfortable, and we built this bond, and we got to grow together, and it was the most beautiful thing that I had ever been through. So to see that you guys had went through something similar, and it was so transformative, it was just epic.
And it's so interesting that the two of you, these guys just met before the screening happened, and it was like this instant bond, because you're both doing incredible work now to help folks who are coming out and are returning citizens. Can you just talk a little bit about but it's really the work that you all are doing to help people live their best lives as they're coming out. So can you talk a little bit about the work that you're doing, Dario, and then you do it?
Sure. I'll try to keep it brief because I'm doing
A lot.
whole
She's doing a lot. He hasn't taken a vacation in 2 years, that's what we know, that's what we found out.
I've been home a little over 4 years now, and I work at Columbia University with the Center for Justice over there. So I work with a program called Justice Through Code, which is an online, nationally based program. So we have students all over the country, but we teach enhanced digital literacy, professional development skills. We work in conjunction with the Columbia Business School, the Taylor Institute for Social Enterprise and Climate Change. And we teach full stack software engineering, and we partner with companies, big tech companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Dropbox, Zoom, and a number of other smaller tech companies. But we connect our graduates when they're ready with these programs for entry-level positions where they're starting off six-figure salaries. And all of them are system impacted. So, we have so many states across the country where there are no resources whatsoever for individuals being released back into society, and they're really struggling out there. So, this is for them, they're just throwing everything in this basket. They're like, I'm putting my life in your hands. So, our program is pretty young. It's a little bit over 4 years old, and we're scaling it as we go along. We're building it as we go along. The founder is a guy from California named Aiden McDonald, and once he was released from prison, he came over to New York to participate in a education program at Columbia Center for Justice called Justice and Education. And with that, he was able to pursue a bachelor's degree in the School of General Studies, and now he just graduated with an MBA at the business school. So he created this program there, and I took the program. I'm an alum of the program when I was released from prison, and he asked me to work with him, and I've been helping him build the program ever since. So that's just one thing that I do. And I work with the Manhattan DA's office, and we're building a reentry program that provides wraparound services for people coming out of prison, and we're looking to replicate that across the country. I also helped found a program at CSA called Voices from Within, which is a mentorship program on the inside. And one of my colleagues, it was 11 of us that created it, 10 of us are currently on the outside, and we just incorporated it, and we're looking to push that initiative nationally as well. And there's a couple of other things, but I'll just keep it at that.
Yeah, so I work for Haley House in the South End, and that place has So I run 2 programs. One of them is called Take Back the Kitchen. It's a nutrition cooking class. Excuse me. And I primarily focus with justice impacted youth, kids anywhere from like 14 to 21 who are returning back to society. And I teach them how to cook. I teach them life skills. I teach them food justice, food insecurity. We have a farm, so I teach them urban agriculture. And it's just been like the most transformative and fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life, to just see these young men grow and develop and learn these life skills. I also run a program called LIFT, Life Foundations Training, which is more reentry centered for older adults, and I help them find jobs, digital literacy, financial lit, higher education, and after like 12 weeks, I cut them a check for $1,000. They have to give me a 90-second elevator speech on who they are and how they're gonna take over the world, and I just love to see them grow and instill that confidence and that belief within them. And yeah, I love Haley House. That place is like a blessing to the world, and yeah, I wouldn't even be where I am, and I've seen so many people just change through a wonderful organization like that, just showing love. Yeah, I'm just so grateful.
So both of you are so passionate about what you do and being mentors and being supporters. It could have been different. What was it that when you both became returning citizens that you said, I've got to give back and I have to do this work because this is now sort of like my life's work to support this?
Well, for me, it started while I was on the inside. I spent a lot of time in solitary confinement, and I was, throughout the first maybe 10 years of the time I've been in prison, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I believed I was going to die in prison, so I lived that way. And I was always involved in violent conflict, and I was in dealing drugs in prison. And at a certain point, I remember I stabbed a gang member in one of the I did all my time in maximum security prisons. And I was in the box with all his people in solitary confinement. So I was surrounded by enemies, and they all knew what I had done to their brother. So they all wanted to kill me, and I'm in there by myself, so I'm like, okay. I had a nervous breakdown one day. I was like, listen, God, I started praying. I said, listen, God, this is what the rest of my life is going to be. Take me now, I don't want to live like this, and I made a vow to myself. I said, if I ever get out of prison, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to serving my community on the inside and on the outside. The RTA program, which is what this film is based on, was the catalyst for me. I landed in Sing Sing. I was transferred to Sing Sing from a prison upstate by Attica called Wendy, and I was introduced to that program. And once I was introduced to that program, it just changed everything for me. It introduced me to educational programs. I was able to enroll in college programs there, and I was able to earn a master's degree while I was in Sing Sing, and started to know that. As part of the RTA program, I became so passionate and so committed to the program that I was made part of the steering committee in 2003. I started with them in 2001. In 2003, I became part of the steering committee, and I was helped to really build that program out for the next 16, 17 years. And then until I was transferred out of prison, and it just made all the change in my life. It actually created, it pushed me in a direction that prepared me for everything that I was to do for the rest of my life. Leadership skills, managing people, managing guys in prison, is a daunting task. You have all kinds of, people with all kinds of issues, and I was able to do that effectively without ever engaging in physical conflict, even though we were this close in so many instances, but I was able to manage that program. And basically it was because I walked the talk, and that makes all the difference. When you tell somebody to do something, but you don't do it, that creates the chaos, that the staff in the prison actually, creates. But when you're able to manage a program, when you show people, this is the way you do it, and you do it, they respect you. Although they may not agree with you all the time, they respect you. And as a result, this is how I conduct all my business out here on the outside, and I get respect in every community that I go to. I work in Brooklyn, I work in the Bronx, I work in Staten Island, Queens, in the worst communities, and I get respect because I walk the talk, and I learned that the hard way, working with RTA.
Yeah, honestly, I would have to say that it was the people who had hope and invested in me when I was serving a 10-year sentence, and I was a young kid, 20 years old, and went in there and didn't know when I was going to come home, didn't know what was going to happen in my life, and I just felt like nobody cared, nobody believed in me anymore. But it was these people in these programs, in the writing lab, in the acting class, in my college class that they kept showing up for me. They kept being present, they kept teaching me, even though the world was trying to tell them I was a monster, they just kept showing up and investing in me. I never wanted to let those people down, and that just opened up so many doors for me, like you said, walking the walk, just showing that authenticity and coming home, I'm in Roxbury, I'm in Dorchester, and people are just hey, Chef David, we love you so much, hey, the kids, and I'm just whoa, people really care. People want to see me succeed, and I never want to let anybody down, and so yeah, I just kept pushing and kept trying to be the best individual that I could be, and yeah, thank God for just staying with me and helping me help people.
So many people who have both of you to thank for the work that you continue to do. So I want to open it up for questions to the audience, but I know we don't have a lot of time, probably for like 3 questions. 3 questions. First,
Thank you so much. This is more of a statement. I just want to thank you so much for your film. Boston, to me, is the city of kings, and I know they left behind heirs, and I feel like a lot of their heirs are stuck in the prison system. So thank you so much for this film. I cried through the whole thing.
Yes, it was just so empowering and powerful and beautiful. One thing I wondered though, when you talked about getting into the programs, did you go and the programs invited you in, or did you see the program and apply for them? And this is for each of you, how you initially got involved in the first program.
Thank you. That's a great question. They actually came out and they looked for people. We don't get introduced to them. I had no idea any of these programs existed. I lived in the yard, So an individual walked up to me one day when I was in the yard, and he just told me that I looked out of place, and it was weird that he said that. I was like, what? I had no idea. He was an older guy, a Puerto Rican guy, and he said this to me, and I was like, what? So he introduces me to this program, and at first I was like a fish out of water in there, because these guys had already developed that relationship within themselves, and they look at me and they're like, oh, now we don't want him in here. This guy's he's rough around the edges, and I didn't feel comfortable, so I left. They came and they pulled me back in. The director that you see, Brent Buell, he's like he was like a mentor. He was the one that told them to bring me back, right? And the ideology behind that was that we don't want to help the goody goodies because they're already doing the right thing. We want to get the bad ones because they're the ones that we need to touch. And that's what they did with me. They pulled me back in. And the superintendent at the time, his name was David Fisher, he said, he asked them, the volunteers and the guys on the inside, not to allow me into the program. Because of my disciplinary history, I had a very violent disciplinary history. And they said, no, we want him in here. And against all odds, they pulled me in there, and I became one of the leaders of the program.
Yeah, as far as my story, it was kind of similar. Like, I didn't care about anything besides like fighting and being on the phone and playing basketball. Like, those are my 3 things that I cared about. And I don't know if it was God or my grandmother, whoever, but this little white lady, Dr. Hillary Binder, just came and was like stalking me throughout the prison. Like, come sign up for class, and I'm like just ignoring her. Like, it's crazy. Like, nobody want to go to college or do schoolwork. Like, I'm having fun. And she literally just saw something in me, and that opened up the door to college, which opened up the door to Haley House, and my life just changed forever. I didn't even know, now I'm the first only incarcerated man to ever go to Tufts University.
I don't want to say what you did, but not who you are.
So this is, I found it an exceptional movie. It was really so inspirational. I wanted to throw out to the room, I used to volunteer with something called a prison book program, and I think we all have books in our bookshelves, or books that we have been given over Christmases or Thanksgivings or birthdays, and I think it's really, it did touch upon prisoners reading in terms of books and that being an inspirational piece of it. But I just sort of throw the challenge out to the room that I think there's a location in Quincy, and that we should all just send a book to a prison book program, whether it be locally or just across the country. Do you have any experience with your local, or did you have experience with your local prison book program, if you even had one? Thank you.
It's funny that you say that. While I was at Sing Sing, I was running a program there called, I think it was Amigos. It was, for the population. We served the needs of the Latino population, but really the whole population. And there were several organizations that were tailored to specific communities, but we all served the entire population. And one of the things I used to do was reach out to colleges and organizations requesting book donations, for the population. And we got no luck. No luck. We got nothing. But we attempted it, and I remember specifically reaching out to hostels in the Bronx because they had a program that was donating books to prisons according to something I had read, but they just completely ignored our pleas.
Yeah, and I was at MCI Cedar Junction, which was Walpole, and MCI Concord, and we actually had access to the prisoners book program. And that was how I got my copy of Midsummer's Night Dream, so I got to practice my monologue. Shout out to them. And I don't know if she's here, but shout out to Susan Tyrell, my finance manager.
Oh, Susan, yes.
Who deals with my unorthodox ways and my madness at work. So if she's here, send my love to you.
She is also one of our volunteer lead coordinators and has been with RoxFilm for a very long time. Any other questions?
Oh, they're right there.
Hi there. Thank you both so much for the work you do. Dario, in 18 years of engagement with the RTA, and David, in your university studies, backtracking, the film started with the decision of what play to go with and what genre of play to go with. In your 18 years and in your college studies, what sorts of stories, or did any particular stories sort of really find a place in your heart and provide you with some sort of motivation or solace?
I mean, it's funny because when I first started watching this movie, I was like, oh, we're going to see Midsummer's Night Dream, we're going to see Shakespeare. And what you all came up with was great, but I was like, wow, that's what they're going to do.
I mean, there were so many that participated in a bunch of plays. I actually played Macbeth one time, and that was a great piece. But there were so many. We did Mice and Men, West Side Story, the Oedipus Rex, 12 Angry Men. There were so many pieces, and they were all, we used them all as teaching tools. But I think one of the most impactful for me was the Oedipus Rex, as well as Macbeth, but the Oedipus Rex. It just, the storyline. So I played Tiresias, the blind prophet, and the whole story surrounding Oedipus, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with Freud's theory. It just kind of, when we dug into those characters, and Clarence Divine Islands, he's the one that had played Oedipus. So when we dug into the story, it just showed us, it allowed us to explore the universality of the human condition, how we all experience some of the same feelings, even though we're in different time periods. And the same themes keep coming up. The same themes in different scenarios and different circumstances keep coming up. And when we approached the play, we approached it from a perspective of what we're going through within the prison and what we're feeling at the time. And then we just translated it to those characters with the understanding of what those characters were experiencing at their time. For that particular reason, that one was my favorite Oedipus Rex.
Yeah, as far as I love the part in the movie where the guy was like, man, I'm done with all this drama. We have no drama in prison. Like, let's do something funny. So I always felt like I wanted to feel an emotion that I wasn't getting in prison. So that's why I love Midsummer's Night Dream. It was like fairies and love and a whole bunch of stuff. It was my little escape. I used acting and reading and all that as my escapism. So I don't know, I just felt like anything that had family moments or love or I don't know, just something that was just super drama that wasn't prison or violence. Like, I hated King Richard. It was just lying and conniving and violence. I'm like, ew, no, I don't want no more of that. We have enough of that here. So it was just kind of that, like anything that helped me escape my reality.
Excellent, thank you. One more? Okay, so we don't have time for one more question, sorry, but we do have to move out of the theater, but I thank you. I don't even know what more to say for the film, for your work, for what you're doing to help other people. It's incredible, and so we wish you luck in your continued journey. And if there's anything you can do, one last word or thoughts that you want to tell the audience about how we can help support your journey.
Yes, definitely. It's a great way to end this. We're starting an impact coalition surrounding this film, where we're looking to screen the film in prisons across the country and possibly beyond, and have a discussion with community-based organizations, community organizers, local politicians, and prison administrators in establishing arts-based programming within the prisons with mentorship components and wraparound services for individuals reentering society, because it is so sorely needed across the country. There are so many states where there are no resources available to individuals reentering, and they're just going back to what they know, and they end up right back in prison. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Some of them have children, they have families to support, they have to support themselves, and they don't have any way to do that. I know that specifically because I work with individuals across the country, and they leave the program painstakingly, with talented individuals that have developed full stack software engineering skills and can get a job, but they're not afforded the opportunity, and they go back to the streets. So this is our call to action. It's kind of like to really help push this agenda for those of you that have any bandwidth with that. With your local politicians, with your prison administrators, with community-based organizations, to really help, bring it, to allow this to happen within your communities, whether here in Boston or anywhere in Massachusetts and across the country, because that's what it's going to take to really make it happen.
And I would say, I feel like a lot of criminal justice reform has been like a trending topic, and people don't realize when these narratives are created, somebody had to relive their trauma that they went through with the hopes that the world is going to have a little bit of empathy for them and the people from their walk of life. So just please, whenever you guys see anything that's like criminal justice reform or reentry, have some empathy for these people, because somebody's really pouring their heart out and being vulnerable in order to try and make people understand the struggle that we live. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, David. For coming, thank you for your unwavering support of RoxFilm, and we'll be back next year. So thank you so much. Thank you.